Universe. This is a book review about the great Indian novel. Written by Mr. Shashi Tharoor in his mid 30s, this work is truly marvelous. His genius in writing and his style was fully established by then, also, it seems. I say this because he has written it in such a way as if it was his 10th novel. But in reality, this is one of his earliest works. And after having read the novel, I would say this for sure. This work will not disappoint you. In fact, you will gain a lot in the process of reading it. You will appreciate the great epic of India, the Mahabharata, the Indian national movement post 1900 against the British rule, the times after the independence and partition of India, and the turbulent political developments after independence. These things have inspired the novel's plot and its characters. The characters in this novel are based on the Mahabharata. These characters retain their personality from the Mahabharata, but they have been adapted in the Indian freedom struggle and to the conditions of post independent India. For instance, there is Vedvyas or VVG who is narrating the whole story to Ganpati, and then there is Bhishma who is mostly referred to as Gangadatt or Gangaji throughout the novel. Gangaji's character is a fictionalized version of Mahatma Gandhi, it seems. Then there are Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, Pandu, Kunti, Madri, Karna, Shakuni, etc. Pandu has five sons, the Pandavas, namely Yudhishthir, Bhim, Arjun, Nakul, and Sahadev, and Draupadi is their wife. Dhritarashtra has a daughter named Priya Duryodhini. Dhritarashtra's character has been loosely based on India's first Prime Minister. And also, there are the characters of Drona, Ashwathama, Krishna, etc. You will be delighted at the way they have been named, the satire on their acts and personality. You will love finding it how these characters have defied the original storyline of the Mahabharata at some places. I will not disclose too much. Just read the novel and find out more. All the characters and the role they have played has been inspired from mythology, Indian history, with a careful blend of both and ample imagination added to it. Those who have the basic knowledge of the Mahabharata, Indian independence movement leaders, and the main events which occurred would be thoroughly able to enjoy this work. But don't worry, even if you are not much familiar with these things, sufficient has been described in this 600-page novel for you to read and understand and enjoy it. The storyline. The novel has been divided into 18 books, just like the Parvs in Mahabharata. Each book has its own style of telling forward the story. The basic storyline of Mahabharata has been used to tell the story. The story begins with these lines, and I quote, "They tell me India is an underdeveloped country," unquote, along with Shantanu and Satyavati, and then goes on about the celibacy vow taken by Bhishma. Classic storyline, you can call it. And somewhere inside the novel, the British imposed a tax on mango, a fruit loved by common Indian masses. In response to this degrading tax, Gangaji decides to undertake the Great Mango March to break the law and handpick a mango and get himself arrested. Now, doesn't it sound similar to the Great Salt March undertaken by Mahatma Gandhi to the Dandi Beach during the civil disobedience movement? And there is a smart conflation of real and imaginary accounts and events. Additional fictional characters have been conjured up many times to make the story more interesting and cohesive. Read the book to find out the interesting story and the way it unfolds before the reader. The philosophy. India has always been the land of philosophers, sages, and storytellers. The Mahabharata has its own share of philosophy and lessons. At the center of the philosophy of this novel is the great nation of India, the rich cultural heritage of India, its stories, and the plurality of its culture, its people, and their beliefs has been celebrated in this novel. Through his commentaries and characters, Mr. Tharoor has expressed concerns and is also worried about the condition of common Indians, the contradictions and the struggles within a democracy, and its imperfections are depicted along with the authoritarian tendencies leaders have in them. The tragedies which India and its people has to face due to the power struggle between eminent personalities and their clashing egos is noticeable. Tharoor also comments about general philosophical and existential questions which every person has in their mind about life. Now, coming on to Tharoor's literary style, Shashi Tharoor has mastered the way native British speakers used to interact way back in the 1930s or 40s. The way he has captured the colonial English, its conceit or smugness, the irony, etc., proves this point. He has taken to wit, satire, and caricature to make his points and expose the hypocrisy of the people who have always been at the helm of affairs. Satire, pun, allusions are in profusion throughout the novel. In almost every paragraph, you'll find them. There are tragedies, irony, and jokes at the right places, and one expects them. There is no dearth of other literary devices also. He has also resorted to poetry, with good rhyming and humor, in many chapters. The ninth book of this novel is almost filled with poetry to convey the story. Overall, he has done a lot of background research and reading to create this work. His clarity of thoughts, understanding of the events which happened, and the personalities is remarkable and assiduous. Mr. Tharoor has his special way with words, we all know that, and with his abundant knowledge of obscure or arcane words, I would say, he would not leave you disappointed in this department. His habit of meticulously fitting the most appropriate word for every requirement, action, or scenario will leave any reader impressed. Surely, you would have to search the meaning of some words, but you will learn a lot in this process. After all, it's a pleasure to learn from the best in the field. In the closing remarks, I would highly recommend this fine piece of work for your reading pleasure. It is worth every penny. I am sure that after a while, you would always want to return to this book, to read your favorite passages and chapters. And that is how classics are born, I must say. This book is destined to be a classic in the time to come. Thank you.